Hello everyone, my name is Shantanu Gupta, and here is our research presentation on Gambit's Gauntlet by Team Extra Sauce. Our primary focus in this research is to examine how players in cooperative games can be affected by player behavior and level design that affects the balance of power dependency between players when working in a team. Whether they can be affected by categorized cooperative sections between levels, team dynamics based on personality types, and player behavior. This is the demographics. Our methodology. We developed our game Gambit's Gauntlet to study the interactions between unfamiliar participants and understand power dependency imbalances between teammates. Going forward with the results section, the qualitative part, our participants were very patient and calm even though they were not familiar with each other. They cooperated and did not seem frustrated with their teammates. Few participant groups involved low skill player matchups with high skill players, but that did not trigger any negative behavior. The high skill player would guide their teammates and wait while their teammate was able to complete the task.
During our quantitative analysis, we annotated behaviors from our videos and visualized all of our results of each section in each level so we can analyze and see how behaviors changed with the change in power dependency between players and levels and over the progression of the game. Here is the results table containing the average of all behaviors across each section of our levels with each player's position. First pattern we tend to see is that the player on the left who is in more control of the platforms in the level is almost in all section tending to show more backup behavior, which signifies that participants with more power over the other will support their teammates due to the imbalance at hand. Second pattern we have found is regarding implicit coordination and planning. Implicit coordination involves coordinating without any communication, and this is definitely a lot more prevalent in level sections where players tend to fail more often. This is due to them learning and the rise of planning on how to get through previous sections to get to their point of failure every time they fail. So implicit coordination as well as planning rises in players when they tend to repeat a level and learn from their failures as a result. Finally, we can see that almost all behaviors tend to show in each section, and they tend to show higher numbers the more attempts the players have. Based on these results, we can say that power dependency imbalance done via level design encourages communication and cooperative behaviors between players since they will take on the imbalance and accommodate each other for the sake of beating the game.
Now for the discussion of our results. We found that players with low familiarity were not as comfortable and were being recorded, so they tended to show goodwill and coordinate well throughout the playtest. The opposite of the above behavior can be observed in competitive team-based FPS games because of the fact that the players of said game are not being monitored in a public manner and they tend to be toxic towards their teammates. When there is an obvious gap in skill level and the team's success is at a question or even possibly be ruined because of said individual. This can be a reason as to why we see a majority of the streamers act in a goodwill manner when they stream content, as they generally are under the wider eye of the general public. Even though it's not part of our lit reviews, we found something interesting happening in the leadership of the teams. Leaders who started off in the dependent position would remain leaders as they became the teammate with more power. Does leadership not change once set in a dyadic relationships? Perhaps if we had more levels in our game, we could research that as well.
Our research results show relation to Bourdieu's 1984 theory of power involving habitus, capital, and fields. In our case, habitus is previous knowledge and experience in social settings and games that they bring with them to the playtest. Capital is the participant's power to control the level via buttons exclusive to them, usually given to the player in the left position, and fields, the levels and sections of our game where the culture and knowledge of both participants collide, and that could be also the playtest location. In terms of our playtest, we think that our participants were well-mannered and polite to their teammates because of their social and cultural backgrounds and their past events and experiences in social structures that shape their habitus. Bourdieu states that in each context, the habitus of the person will produce different patterns transferable between contexts, and in our studies context, players were being monitored by us and recorded for the entirety of the playtest, hence explaining the nice and polite behaviors throughout all teams coming from their past cultural and social expectations.
Now for the limitations of our research. Players when grouped based on more familiarity could have given us a different perspective and results compared to players grouped on low familiarity, since people tend to be more comfortable in expressing their feelings, opinions, and disagreements when it comes to people they trust and know well. We also would like to use the personality types we obtained from our pre-survey as another variable in our future stages of this research, as correlating that with our existing findings would bear some interesting results. Participants would probably be more critical of their teammates' performance when put in a more private setting, but there still is a chance that they might still be hesitant to be critical about their teammates' performance due to them being self-conscious that they are being observed, recorded, and studied for research purposes. Although this could be the case for groups of unfamiliar people, we think that might not be the case when players are grouped based on trust and friendship. In the next stages of our research, we would test this hypothesis by evaluating the relationship between familiarity and the player's negative feedback toward their teammates. This would enable us to improve upon our findings and completely answer our research question. Finally, for the conclusion, we were expecting the power imbalance implemented via level design to impact cooperation negatively. But since the participants had a common goal in which both were needed, they were willing to go through and comply with their teammates for the sake of achieving this common goal of beating the game. Participants with more power over the other will tend to support their teammates due to the imbalance at hand, while the more dependent player will ask of more demands that will be supported. Behavioral markers such as implicit coordination as well as planning were observed a lot in players when they tend to repeat a level and learn from their failures as a result. A common goal between players will tend to balance out the power dependency relationship implemented via the level design, since they do need each other to reach that common goal. In conclusion, we can say that power dependency imbalance done via level design encourages communication and cooperative behaviors between players, since they will take on the imbalance and accommodate each other for the sake of completing the common goal of beating a level, section of it, or the game as a whole. Thank you so much for watching.